Welcome to The Explainer. And wow, the last 48 hours have been absolutely wild. The political map of South America, let's just say it's been completely redrawn. Today, we're going to break down exactly how and why the sitting president of Venezuela was captured in one of the most daring midnight raids you'll ever hear about. So, how does something like this even happen? I mean, a sitting president in a New York courtroom, it's a story that feels like it was ripped straight out of a political thriller. We're talking a high-tech midnight raid, a really deep dive into international law, and a dangerous power vacuum that has pretty much the entire world holding its breath.
You know, this single line from one of the first reports really says it all, doesn't it? It just perfectly captures the stunning speed of Nicolás Maduro's fall from power. A fall that was incredibly swift, super high-tech, and, as we'll see, intensely personal.
To really understand how we got here, we're actually going to start at the end of the story. So let's go to January 5th, 2026, inside a heavily guarded federal courthouse right in Manhattan. The scene itself is just historic. The presidential sash he always wore, gone, replaced by a standard prison uniform. And you have to understand, this isn't just about a change of clothes. It's this incredibly powerful symbol of his new reality. And it was broadcast for the entire world to see. But, okay, look at the actual charges here, because this is what's really fascinating. The Department of Justice isn't going after him for political crimes or, say, human rights abuses. Nope. They're treating him like the head of a massive drug cartel, accusing him and his wife of conspiring to flood the U.S. with narcotics. They even called it a kinetic weapon. So this idea of the Cartel of the Suns, well, that's the entire foundation of the U.S. case. Their argument is that Maduro wasn't really running a country in the traditional sense. They're saying he was running a criminal enterprise that used the power of the state to traffic drugs. And that claim, that is the legal justification for everything that happened next. So how in the world did he get from a presidential palace in Caracas to a detention center in Brooklyn? Well, to understand that, we have to rewind the clock 48 hours, right to the moment the raid began. It's 2 a.m. on January 3rd. That's when it all went down. The United States launched this just massive, super high-tech decapitation strike. And I mean, this was not a small-scale raid. No way. We're talking over 150 aircraft, F-35s, Reaper drones, all laser-focused on a single target, the president. And listen, while U.S. forces had 0 fatalities, the operation was not without bloodshed. The Cuban government has already confirmed that over 30 of its military advisors who were on the ground defending key Venezuelan facilities were killed in those first precision strikes. The speed of this raid was just astonishing. I mean, from the second U.S. Special Ops breached the presidential compound, it took them only half an hour to secure their target. And that speed was totally intentional. It was designed to neutralize any organized military response before it could even get off the ground. You know, what's so wild about this whole thing is how they pulled it off. It was this perfect fusion of digital and physical warfare, like something out of a movie. It actually started in cyberspace, with U.S. teams just plunging Caracas into a total blackout to blind their air defenses. And only then did the physical strikes begin, paralyzing military command before Delta Force even touched down. And this was the moment the whole world knew it was real. This photo taken aboard the USS Iwo Jima instantly became the defining symbol of the whole operation. A captured head of state, not in a uniform, but in a simple sweatsuit. Right, so an operation this drastic, it doesn't just happen in a vacuum. It was really the culmination of 18 months of escalating pressure. Think of it like a slow burn that finally just ignited into a full-blown military intervention. So yeah, this didn't happen overnight. You can actually see how the pressure just kept ramping up over 18 months. It started with the diplomatic fallout from that disputed election, then it escalated to targeted military strikes, and it finally climaxed with a full-on naval blockade. So when Maduro rejected a final offer to go into exile, well, the die was cast. So let's get back to the present. With Maduro gone, Venezuela is facing this massive power vacuum. I mean, the capture of just one man has thrown the entire state into total chaos. And this right here, this lays out the central conflict facing not just Venezuela, but the U.S. as well. On one side, you have Delcy Rodriguez, who currently holds control of the military. On the other, you have Maria Corina Machado, the Nobel winner who has the Democratic mandate. So the big question is, who does the U.S. back? The pragmatist with the guns or the idealist with the votes? What's interesting is the U.S. isn't occupying Caracas with ground troops.
Instead, they're going with this strategy of management by blockade. By controlling the country's oil exports, they basically hold the keys to the entire treasury. This creates immense internal pressure while they're holding these delicate talks and trying to control the narrative with new tools like Starlink. As you can imagine, this operation has sent massive shockwaves across the globe. It's created this fierce debate not just about Venezuela's future, but about the very nature of national sovereignty and international law itself. And this is really the core of the whole international legal debate. Critics are calling it an illegal crime of aggression, a violation of the UN Charter. But the U.S. is countering with what they're calling the Noriega precedent, referencing the 1989 invasion of Panama, and arguing that Maduro basically forfeited his immunity by leading a narco-state and using drugs to attack the U.S. The global fallout has been pretty swift, with, predictable condemnation from rivals like China and Russia. Meanwhile, the U.S. is already planning the economic reconstruction. But here's the thing. The risk that Venezuela could just descend into a long, bloody, Cuban-backed narco-insurgency, that risk is very, very real. So, at the end of the day, the capture of one man has slammed the door on an entire era. But it leaves behind this huge looming question, a question that's going to define the future not just of Venezuela, but of American foreign policy for years to come. The revolution is over. The big question now is, what's going to rise from its ashes?